Good evening and welcome to From Community College of CPA. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us tonight. I hope everyone is safe and healthy. My name is David Lowe. I am the Senior Program Manager for the California Society CPAs. And with us tonight, we have assembled actually a diverse panel of speakers and presenters. And hopefully you'll get some relevant information about your journey to becoming a CPA starting at the community college level. So I wanted to go ahead and introduce some of our speakers before our welcome and introductions. We have Charlie Osaki, who is the chair of our Accounting Education Committee. And he's also an instructor at Cerritos College and recently retired from Square Milner. And he's also had a career at one of the big four firms. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Charlie for some introductory remarks. So go ahead, Charlie.
Well, thank you, David. It's a pleasure to be with you tonight. I'm going to just share several things that all of us are going to share about ourselves. My undergraduate degree was in business economics with an emphasis in accounting from UC Santa Barbara. And I went there straight out of college. Ironically, my minor was special education, children with special needs. I did not even know I wanted to go into accounting until my senior year, yet I was an officer in the Accounting Association, an undergraduate teaching assistant. But I didn't pursue accounting until they decided to post interviews for what was the Big Eight and all the national firms. And I thought, well, boy, that'd be a great way to get some experience, because I had spent the last 6 summers being a crewman and a captain of a tuna boat down in San Diego. I didn't go to community college, so I can't really tell you what the greatest challenge I've had, but I will tell you that talking to several of my students that I serve as an advisor and mentor to, is that one, 2 of the students are first generation college attendees, and they said, even though they are great students, they said it is lonely being the first one. And we talked a lot about building a network of people that could advise you, get ideas, because it can be lonely when you're first. And so I encourage people to, engage and reach out. What was my hiring and interviewing experience? It was, I think the most interesting thing were some of the interviewing questions I had, frankly. I mean, I interviewed, well, there were 2 things. Some of the interviewing questions. One was, tell me about yourself for the next 40 minutes. And that was the only question the firm asked everybody that day, for everyone they interviewed. The other one was, if you could be a vegetable or a type of fruit, what would you be and why? And I'm not too sure how that evaluated me, but those were 2 unique questions I was asked, and I don't think they'd ever ask you those questions today. But the interesting thing was, for one firm, I interviewed in 3 offices, which would never happen today. I interviewed in Los Angeles, Orange County, in the Costa Mesa office, and in Honolulu, Hawaii. They asked me to go to Honolulu. I did not ask, but 2 days in Honolulu was great. Tips for students trying to land an internship or job. When you're presenting yourself, don't try so hard and answering a question or expressing yourself based on what you think you should be saying. You should discuss things that you've done, what you've learned, and how you've applied what you've learned, because that will tell people about how you think. It's transparent. You'll tell people you're genuine, and they will, no pun intended, be able to evaluate you in a genuine way. The upcoming trends, the things I would talk about are already here. You don't need to be an expert in technology. You need to be flexible and adaptable to changes in technology. Get comfortable with using different types of software. The best advice I ever received was two things. Be intellectually inquisitive. Understand why things are the way they are. Don't just take things for what they are. Otherwise, you'll just be doing a bunch of tasks and not be able to adapt to different situations. The other thing was, do favors for people when you can. And I've always lived by that, especially as I became more experienced. And what makes a great CPA? One word: caring. If you care, you're going to be a great professional.
Great, Charlie. Thank you so much.
You bet.
I'd like to also introduce Jolene Fraser, CPA, who is our 2020-21 chair of the California Society of CPAs. Jolene is based out of Sacramento. So, Jolene.
Hi, everyone. Wanted to make sure I had myself off mute. Good afternoon. As David said, I'm Jolene Fraser, the current chair of CalCPA. I'm delighted to welcome everybody today to today's session, From Community College to CPA. This is a topic that's near and dear to my heart, as that's the exact path that I took in college. It led me to a career in auditing for the first 10 years out of college. And after that, I jumped at an opportunity to get involved in forensic accounting, and I've been doing that for the last 13 years of my career. I'm just briefly going to share some great things that we're doing at CalCPA, and then wrap it up with some pitches as to why, if you're not already a student member, you definitely should become one. First, we've definitely been listening to our members during this pandemic. We've got a lot going on. We've certainly changed a lot of the ways that we're working and the way that we're living, and we're getting through it. We're getting ahead of it. We're keeping our members informed and updated on how the profession is doing. We're creating opportunities to engage and learn from one another with various events across the state. It's been fantastic. I've been involved in quite a few of those events, and I've gotten opportunities to meet people that I otherwise wouldn't have met. So even though we're living in a virtual environment, it's actually turned out to be a great thing in a lot of ways. So we're taking advantage of that. And we're, of course, helping our businesses reevaluate their budgets, as well as their business plans, to help ensure that they have long-term sustainability. One of the other great things that we've just recently started is we've created a Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission. We're trying to understand why our profession isn't as attractive to underrepresented populations. It's the right thing to do with our professional organization, and we're excited about the great things that are going to come from it. We had our first meeting last night, and we're putting together some actionable steps as to how we can make things better and bring in a more diverse crowd to our environment and to our profession. It's a great profession, and we want to make sure that we continue to see it grow. One of the other things I'll share with you is that there is a new CPA exam that will be coming out. It's not going to come out for a while, so you have some time, not till I think the plan is about 2024. So if you have the opportunity, definitely try and take it before then. But what's really exciting about the new CPA exam is it's going to allow for some additional specialization, which I think is really desired by a lot of students who maybe want to specialize in tax or specialize in IT, on top of the already the core accounting, audit, and tax areas that are included. A lot of great things coming from it. One of the things that's really important to CalCPA right now is to make sure that we focus on our learning and competency programs, and through that, including understanding how we're going to convey and teach all of these components for the exam, is making sure that we're working with different organizations and being the leader across the country with some of this education. A lot of the ways that you can get this great information is to become a member. If you're not already a student member, it is a free membership. There's a lot of great things that are going to be coming up for our student members, including resume workshops, how to do an interview, those sorts of things. So a lot of great resources. So definitely become a member. It's a fantastic opportunity. Just want to say thanks for having me.
Great. Thank you so much, Jolene. Next, we have Nancy Corrigan, CPA, who is the president of the Board of Accountancy, and she'll get into more in terms of what the Board of Accountancy and their role is in terms of regulating the CPA profession. But they're the body here in the state of California that issues CPA licenses. So that's all you need to know for now. But I'll go ahead and turn it over to Nancy for some opening remarks.
Thank you, David and CalCPA. I want to let you know that your president and CEO spoke to our board this morning about all these activities and some things that Jolene mentioned. Very, very exciting. I have to say, I am a long-term CalCPA member. I can't speak highly enough about CalCPA and encourage all current licensees and future licensees to join and take advantage of those wonderful benefits, and especially these outreaches during COVID-19 and everything else we've been facing in this world. It is just fantastic. So yes, my name is Nancy Corrigan. I'm a certified public accountant, or CPA, and I currently serve as the president of the California Board of Accountancy, and we refer to ourselves as the CBA. So on behalf of my fellow board members and all of the staff, we have staff of about 100 people, I want to thank you for this opportunity. You know, this is a chance that we have to interact directly with students, and we just don't get that opportunity very often, and we are excited about your future as a possible CPA, so a licensee. So as David mentioned, we are an agency. We regulate the practice of public accountancy in California. We issue licenses to those that meet requirements under the law. Our mission is to protect the public, those consumers that rely on services of CPAs. And our responsibility is to ensure that licensed CPAs practice in accordance with professional standards. So there's a whole body of information and rules and regulations and procedures that really make you the professional that you become when you decide to take that leap and become a CPA. So it's very, very important. Public accountancy is a profession that has long been in demand and has an important history. And it's a little scary right now with everything going on. You're probably wondering, well, is there really a need? Is there a future? But I have to say that the need maybe has never been greater than before. We have a changing business environment. We have technology creating new opportunities for accountants. We have ever-changing professional auditing and accounting standards, not to mention tax regulations that are constantly changing. We have continuing reliance on our services by third-party users, bankers, bonding companies, investors. Lots of people relying on what services the CPAs provide. We also have the lingering impact of past financial failures and the need to prevent them in the future. Very serious need. So a little bit later in the program, and as David mentioned, I'll speak more about the requirements to obtain a CPA license here in California. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Nancy. We're running a little ahead of schedule, so that's good. I actually wanted to share my screen here if I can get to work and find out a little bit more about our audience that's joining us tonight. So if I can go ahead and pull up my slides here, and hopefully it'll work. All right. So this is a poll that I'm going to run for the audience here. So those of you joining us online, go ahead and either go to pollev.com and enter future CPA as the code, or you can utilize your mobile device and go ahead and do that as well, and text the code there. So I'll just leave it up there for couple more seconds. So we wanted to get an idea of who is joining us tonight, and I'm crossing my fingers that this will work. Who's joining us tonight from the various organizations out there? So go ahead and list your school or your firm. Okay, we have Pasadena City College. Here, what's one word that comes to mind when you think accounting? What's like the first word that comes to mind? So I just kind of wanted to see. Okay, so yeah, I see in the chat we have Reedley, Miracosta. Oh, Miracosta here. Okay, and then Sierra College. All right, great. A lot of Sierra College people. All right. More Reedley people. Stanislaus. More PCC, College of San Mateo. All right. So I'm going to go ahead, and we have Cerritos joining us as well. I'm going to go ahead and move on to our next session because I apologize for the technical difficulties with the poll. But we're going to go ahead and move on to our next topic here, which is the limitless opportunities as a CPA. And we're honored to have Patrick White, CPA, who is a partner with the firm Frank Rimmerman, based out of the Bay Area. And so I appreciate Patrick. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And I just want to preface this by saying that Patrick has a community college background, just like Jolene here. So we're interested in seeing his path to becoming a CPA and what opportunities he's encountered in his CPA career. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Patrick.
David, do you remember the community college that I attended?
I don't. I know you went to UCSB. You transferred there,
Yeah.
but I don't remember the community college, unfortunately.
Yeah, I transferred from Sierra College.
Oh,
So,
Sierra. Okay, we have some Sierra. That's okay.
represent
Cool.
Wolverines.
All right. You have some fellow Wolverines online with you. So all right.
Ayuk, he's our first-round draft pick for the Niners. Went to Sierra College as well.
That's awesome.
Great, glad to see so many Sierra College attendees online here. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I did go the community college route as well, and then transferred to UC Santa Barbara. Bit of a, I think it can be a bit more challenging because it kind of feels a little bit, I would say, like the 13th grade, where there's a lot of familiar faces and you got a lot of friends around. It takes quite a bit of effort to focus and make sure you've got your eyes on the prize. And for me, it was really to get into a good career. And I look back at, I look back at my career choice and the path that I went to decide in becoming a CPA. And I think that's the best way to really describe the opportunities that the CPA profession really affords you. One of the things that I held dear to me was job security. And so when I was looking for a career, I wanted a career that was going to be secure. And I know that technology is kind of, overwhelming us on a daily basis. We see our lives changing every day. Certain careers and professions seem to be going by the wayside. And I can tell you there's not really a scenario where CPAs are no longer going to be needed. Technology is a tool for us as CPAs, whether you're doing tax, whether you're doing accounting services, whether you're doing auditing, which is what I do. The technology just makes your job easier. And those individuals who can work best with the technology are those that will be most successful in really any career, and that includes CPAs. So, I had lots of jobs growing up. In fact, when I went to Sierra College, I worked for the Franchise Tax Board out in Rancho Cordova, if you're familiar. It's just outside of Sacramento. And when I worked there, I had that job security. I knew that it would take an act of Congress or the legislature to get me out of that job. But the job security, as I found, wasn't all I wanted. The actual career advancement and the opportunity wasn't there for me. There's a very structured, kind of regimented promotional structure out there, and I didn't feel like I was being rewarded for my efforts. So I think that the next thing I was looking for with my career was I wanted that advancement. I wanted to be able to achieve more based on how hard I worked and how good I was at my job. And being a CPA, check that box. It is a challenge. It takes a lot of dedication to get that CPA designation, but once you do, you can advance. You can advance, very quickly through management, through the ranks at any company or within a firm. And I guess from a monetary perspective as well, you can advance as quickly as you desire with that CPA designation. If you get comfortable with a job that you want and you're happy with your compensation, great, you can continue to do what you do. Or if you want to challenge yourself and continue to evolve, you can find ways to be enriched more through compensation with the CPA designation. So I think that advancement is a great reason to be a CPA. I think of another job that I had when I was going to Sierra College, and that was at Costco. And I worked really hard. I started out on the front end, as we called it. I got great at pushing carts, and then eventually I became a cashier. And I was like, yeah, to the top here. I wanted to be manager of the warehouse. And one day, one of the managers came up to me and said, "Hey, Pat, you're doing a great job. It's time for Costco University for you." Costco is a great company. It's fantastic. It sounded great to me, but as I kind of, I thought about it and I thought, well, geez, is working at Costco for the rest of my career what I want, or working in wholesale, or working in retail, or working in grocery? And I decided that wasn't, really what I wanted to do potentially for the next 40 years of my life. I wanted that increased opportunity. I wanted to be able to do whatever I wanted to do eventually. And being a CPA does that for you. And when I say additional opportunity, I really mean limitless opportunities. You can work in really any industry that you want to as a CPA. I wrote down a couple here that just, within a minute I came up with: real estate, sports, government, hospitality, investment companies, medical profession, not-for-profits, technology, life sciences, academia. You name it. You can work in really any industry that you want to as a CPA. I've actually fashioned my practice around nonprofits. So I work about half my year with nonprofits exclusively. I love what they do for the community, and they love what I do for them. And I feel like we kind of create this business partnership, if you will, to accomplish what their missions are. And it really brings meaning to my career. And so that's how I found being a CPA allowed me to really customize what I do. At the same time, being in the San Francisco Bay Area, I work with a lot of tech companies, a lot of software companies and life science companies, and there's a little bit of government that's mixed in there as well. We are pretty heavy, I think, on public accountants here, but you don't have to stay in public accounting with that CPA certification, by the way. As I progressed through my career, I was kind of on a 2-year plan where every 2 years I'd look at what I did and said, okay, is this what I want to do? Do I want to stay in public accounting, or do I want to move into industry? Or do I want to do something else with my designation? If I wanted to continue doing accounting as a CPA, again, I could move into a lot of different things. I could, I thought at one point I wanted to work for the Sacramento River Cats, or I wanted to work for the San Francisco 49ers, right? I really wanted to get into sports. And, I eventually continued on as I grew at my firm, just creating more and more opportunities. You can use that CPA designation to move into a completely different career path altogether. I've got a lot of coworkers, a lot of friends who got that CPA designation and then decided, well, geez, I want to be a financial planner or a financial advisor. So they went off and got their CFA, or they went back and got into that MBA program that they wanted to get into, or maybe they went back to law school. Again, a lot of different things that you can do once you have that CPA designation. I think that another thing that I prize most right now with the whole pandemic going on is I can do my work from anywhere. I can do it. I can do it from my home. As you can see, this is my home office. Actually, for the past 3 weeks, I've been in Southern California, down David's way, and working remotely, and nobody knew any different, because as long as I've got my camera, as long as I've got my laptop, and I've got my brain with all my accounting knowledge, I can do my work from anywhere, and that includes on the road. If you want to jump in a motorhome and travel across the country with your family or some friends, and stop on the side of the road and put in your 8 hours, whatever it might be, you can do that. If you want to do your work from a different part of the world, you can do that as well. You could work from overseas. You could work from the East Coast, the West Coast, what have you. I should point out that every country, when it comes to the CPA designation, they recognize it, and they know that CPA is the equivalent of a chartered accountant overseas. I had the opportunity about 10 years ago to work in Australia. We have an affiliated firm over there named Pitcher Partners. It's kind of a mid-tier level firm. So I went overseas and worked for 4 months out of Melbourne, and on the back end, I did a bunch of traveling. So, but again, the language of accounting, the language of finance was very similar, and any differences I could pick up on it. So, I think that that CPA designation has opened up limitless opportunities for me, and I would encourage anybody, no matter what their ultimate career path is, get on that trajectory, get that CPA, and after a couple of years in a CPA firm, kind of reassess and say, okay, is this what I want to do? Do I really enjoy this? Or do I want to pivot? And again, you can pivot laterally, you can, advance at your firm, you can move into industry, whatever you want to do. So that's what I have to say about limitless opportunity, David. Hopefully that was timed about right.
Patrick,
Great.
I have to say, you and I must have been on the same path and had the same exact college counselor. I also went to Sierra College, and I also worked at Franchise Tax Board.
Oh, cool. Okay. You went to Sierra, you said?
I did.
Oh, cool. Really neat.
And apparently a lot of the students on here did as well. It's a great college.
Yeah.
A lot of Sierra College students here, so I'm glad to see that they're on. We had a question come on, and since you both kind of chimed in, any advice on anybody that you've encountered over your career that's already looking for a career change and looking to switch to becoming a CPA? Maybe they're a mid-career person, they're like, you know what, I'm a chiropractor and I don't really like being a chiropractor and I want to be a CPA. Have you encountered people like that, and how do they get it? Because it seems like with the recruiting process, you're like 21 and you're a junior and you're getting recruited. But then what about someone who's, a little bit more who has a little bit more work experience and looking to transition into becoming a CPA? Any advice quickly on how to navigate that?
My immediate response is it's never too late. I've met so many people throughout my career who have changed careers, have started later in life, decided to change careers at whatever particular point in time. It's a great career, and so many people have so much to offer. It doesn't matter where you're at in your career life cycle. There's always room. And I get the idea that, there's this recruiting process, but that recruiting process is not solely held by college students just getting out of college, the younger generation. There's jobs all over the place. It doesn't always have to follow the same path. So to me, it's never too late. So I say, if you're considering it, go for it.
I've had multiple clients, David, where they've, they're handling the books and they're just, in a senior accountant type role. And they kind of say, hey, I'm thinking about becoming a CPA. I've been doing, AP and payroll or HR for companies for a long time. And, I kind of like this accounting thing. I like the flexibility of it, whatever it might be. And so I kind of counsel them and say, hey, it's never too late to get that designation. You can continue to do your current job, study for your exam, pass the exam. And then once you get that experience and check the box there, as long as you're working under a CPA, and we'll go through the criteria for getting licensed, I believe later, you can, it's never too late to get that designation. And, gosh, I can think of my clients who have approached me, and they range from, 25 years old to 48 years old. really advanced in their careers. So never too late, and it always creates opportunity for you in the future.
Great, thank you so much. Appreciate you, Patrick, sharing about your experience. So our next topic is keys to success as a community college accounting student. And with us is Michelle Lee, assistant professor at Pasadena City College. And then back again is Charlie Osaki, also accounting instructor at Cerritos College. So I'll go ahead and at least let Michelle introduce herself. Brief. I know Charlie introduced himself already, but Michelle, if you can just say hi to the audience and introduce yourself.
There we go. Hi, everybody. My name's Michelle Lee, and I teach at PCC. This is actually my second career. I started out my career after having graduated from USC with my bachelor's in accounting and my bachelor's in journalism. I went on to work for Ernst & Young for a few years, got my CPA, and then worked for Avery Dennison. Mr. Avery invented sticky paper. So any label, any that you see on any food products and all that stuff, he invented back, I think, in the 1930s. So I oversaw their SEC reporting group for a number of years there. And then I had kids and decided that I wanted to work part-time, so I started teaching at PCC. So this has been I had a great career at Avery, loved my time there. Didn't think it could get any better until I started teaching. So that's my story.
I apologize. I actually goofed up here because I'm not wearing my glasses because I'm broadcasting from my parents' house here. But we actually are supposed to have Nancy Corrigan for that session. So, but thank you, Michelle, for introducing yourself. We actually have the role of the Board of Accountancy and the requirements for CPA licensure. So I apologize for the mix-up. That's on me. So I'll go ahead and bring up the slides, and we'll bring up Nancy's presentation here shortly. If I can go ahead and get that slide deck to work, because I think that was part of it.
David, I thought I was coming on a little early, but
I apologize. So let me go ahead and get that up and running here. All right.
Thank you, David. And that's okay, because one way or another, you all have to go through us to get licensed.
Yes, exactly.
One way or another, we deal with it. It's no issue at all. And I'm going to have 5 slides. It's going to be rather brief because all of this information is on our website. I mentioned we have approximately 100 staff that our management oversees. Certainly I don't. They are fantastic. They're very knowledgeable. The goal is to get as many candidates licensed as possible, and all the information is there readily available. So try not to memorize anything tonight. Just kind of know that there are some factors and things that you need to know, a few hurdles to jump through, but nothing that you can't do. The other discussions and the panel discussion is just, it's a wealth of information. The presentation that Patrick just did, that is a wealth of information, something so helpful to students and helping them in guiding them to where they're going. So I had mentioned before that the CBA's job is to protect consumers that rely on the services of CPAs. And we work to ensure that only qualified licensees practice public accountancy in California in accordance with professional standards. So one of the primary ways we do this is we evaluate all California candidates to determine whether they meet requirements under the law. We evaluate, going to slide 2, what we call the 3 E's, which is examination, education, and experience. I'm going to focus more on education because that's where our students are right now, and focusing on how to channel themselves. Examination and experience come after that. We will touch upon that as well. But your focus right now is to get through that education and determine what you need to be able to take the exam. So the first thing you need to be doing, I'm still on slide 2, you're talking about education, is you need to go for a bachelor's degree. And if you're doing that, you're moving in the right direction to ultimately take the CPA exam. So passing that exam, It isn't an easy, it's quite a hurdle. It isn't easy. You are tested on your basic skills, your competencies to practice public accountancy. It's a national computer-based exam, and it's a 4-part test, and each part is 4 hours in length. It is enduring. Hopefully your education prepares you for it, and certainly once you get into practice with that education, you bolster your foundation in accounting knowledge. So moving on then and talking about the minimum education requirements in slide 3, before you take the exam, and we can go ahead and advance that slide when you get a chance, David. Before you take the exam, you have certain minimum educational requirements that you have to meet. I mentioned obtaining a bachelor's degree or higher, and that does not have to be in any particular major. You don't have to have an accounting major, for example, but with that bachelor's degree, you have to have completed 24 semester units in accounting subjects, and then 24 semester units in business-related subjects. And we call that the 24-24 rule. So once you have accomplished that, and you believe you're ready to take the exam, you visit our website, you set up an account, and you start the application process. We verify that you have met these requirements, and then we notify you can begin the process to take the exam. Now, regarding the 4 sections of the exam, you have to achieve a score of 75 or higher on each section, and the first one that you pass starts an 18-month clock. You have to have all the parts passed within that 18-month period. And when you do that, you get a huge, wonderful congratulatory letter from us, and you go out and you party and you celebrate and let all your friends and family know, because it is a major hurdle, is a huge accomplishment. But with that, you can go out and do all the things that Patrick spoke about and those limitless opportunities. It is very, very well worth it. So moving on, once you do that, there are a few additional requirements now to get the license. So I'm on that next slide 4. And you have to have 150 total semester units, including 20 units in accounting study and 10 units in ethics study. 1 year of general accounting experience will, under supervision of an appropriately licensed CPA, you can obtain what we call the G, or general license, and you can practice. But if you meet other specific experience requirements, you can achieve the A license, which allows you to do a test. You've heard us referring to a test, audits, reviews, that sort of thing. I am an A licensee. I'm in a test. My specialty is a test auditing and financial reporting. So you can get that experience with these CPA firms, and you can actually qualify for that. So once you've done all of that, you are ready to apply for licensure. You contact our knowledgeable staff, and they guide you through the process, because our goal is to license as many qualified CPAs as we can. And I just do hope that you consider, and we're getting a lot of comments from people about, it's a very positive process. It's almost like you can't go wrong. In my firm, we've had people come in with different majors, different specialties, having decided they're going to make that transition, and they're very happy with it. So it's very flexible in that way. Public accounting has opened so many doors for me, and now look, it's allowed me to give back to my community, to serve on national committees, serve on my state board, and I have loved it from day one, and I've been doing it for quite some time. So we have very dedicated staff who are there to assist you and guide you through, make the process as seamless as possible. And on my very last slide, I'm giving you the contact information, the website, our different departments, exam, licensing, email currently is the best way to contact the CBA. We have the social media accounts as well, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. And I just so appreciate being able to present this information to you and hope that it's been helpful, and happy to join a little bit later on the panel. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Nancy. I apologize. I had some technical difficulties advancing the slide. My audio was breaking up, but I think we're good now. We had a question come in about the CPA license, and I'll throw it out to anybody here, any of the CPAs out there. It was a question about the CPA license being used in the U.S., and I at least understand that, being a non-CPA. But the question was if they can use the CPA designation in Canada or Australia or Europe. So I don't know. I know they'll say like they'll recognize the value. If you go show up to Toronto and say, hey, I'm a CPA from California, they'll be like, wow, that's great. You know, like you know what you're talking about. But I don't know what else they can do. So I would assume it depends on the country. So I don't know if anybody else here can answer that question. So yeah. So I just want to throw that out there.
I have a lot of experience with that. I served a multinational out of the United Kingdom, and I handled the U.S. operations when I was at Deloitte. And, you know, in a world international economy like this, where we have a lot of multinationals that are based in the U.S. and we serve companies that are based in other countries, you know, if the reporting is going to be in United States generally accepted accounting principles, you know, there's use. That license is recognized abroad. And if you are, let's say you're going to relocate for for a personal reason, professionally or for personal reasons to another country, the US CPA license has recognition with regards to how the employers look at you, because it is looked at a certain level, and that person having a high level of competency. Now, you're going to probably, if you're going to serve companies and practice in another country, you'll have to get that certification in that country. However, keep in mind, most Commonwealth countries, the chartered accountant license, the accounting rules are very similar. They actually have fewer of them over in the United Kingdom and in Commonwealth countries, but you're going to find that you're very portable if you have a US CPA. Also, there's the CGMA, that if you have a US license and you take the CGMA exam with the International Accounting Principles, you're going to find that you're portable to other countries. So the point is, the US CPA license dovetails into the ability to work and practice in other countries.
Great,
that
thank you.
Was the
thank
answer?
You. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you, Charlie.
Sure.
So now we're getting to our keys to success as a community college accounting student. So now we're back on track. So Michelle was kind enough to introduce herself. So let's go ahead and dive in with Charlie and Michelle, and maybe talk about some of the misconceptions that students come into your accounting classes and how they view accounting. I don't know if they expect to be working with abacuses and you know, when they start accounting classes with no experience, but just wanted to see what your experience has been like. So I'll start with Michelle, and then Charlie can follow up.
I think one of the misconceptions is a fear of math, right? Because they're thinking, oh, these numbers are coming at me. I'm not good at math, so I can't do good at this class. What I tell my students on the first day, if you can add, subtract, multiply, divide, and simple algebra, you'll be fine. We do deal with a lot of numbers, but very, very elementary math. The other thing that I would say about accounting, and perhaps a career in accounting that's often misconstrued, is that it's kind of built for introverts, right? That you are just going to sit down at a desk and not talk to anybody and just kind of keep your nose to the desktop. And what I would say about that is I tell my students that it's more about your soft skills than it is about your technical accounting skills. I oversaw the SEC group at Avery. I am not a technical accountant. That is not my forte. I do not do well with reading FASBs. So I would always direct that to my auditors, right? We had PwC as auditors. Much of my strengths in that world was my ability to write, right? Our press releases, our annual reports, my ability to interact with the upper management effectively, and also to lead a department. And so for me, my success dealt more with my soft skills, because accounting hard skills were not my strength. So I think that's another misconception.
Yeah, I think dovetailing into what Michelle said is true. A lot of the comments are, I'm not good at math. And it's not like we're doing differential equations and high-level statistics. It's, you might use algebra and statistics and some of the data analytics and some of the analytical tools, but really, it's not high-level mathematics. And really, the most successful CPAs are great managers of people, projects. A lot of students I'm involved in at first think about accounting as, some guy that's in the TV show The Office being a dork, making a lot of mistakes, or they're full charge bookkeeper. There's not the professional aspect. And they are surprised. A lot of the students, the access to information that we're sharing here isn't really accessible, or should I say shared at the community college level. For instance, that there's managerial accounting, cost accounting, there's information systems, there's financial accounting, but that there's 20 different industries, biotech, high tech, entertainment, different levels of government, jobs like controllership, CFO, analyst, that if you did the math on that, the opportunities are in the thousands. It is limited. If you were to try and calculate it, it's unlimited in vision. It is the opportunities for a career. And think about the misconception also is, what will I learn? I'm going to be doing accounting. Here's the reality. I will learn to manage tasks. I will learn to manage projects. I will learn to manage people. I will learn new software. I will learn how to adapt to new cultures. I will learn how to handle transactions, whether it's international, a merger and an acquisition. I will learn how to lead people. I will learn how to lead organizations. And I was just thinking as I listened to Jolene when she took the helm of being the new chair of CalCPA, she probably learned that in 15 years. And you're still a young professional, okay? And that's the misconception, the variety, the upward trajectory, the upward mobility. It's the misconception is due to a lack of information. And but literally, you're talking about, and I would challenge the comment that the CPA isn't desirable. The reality is that accounting graduates, or those who are on an accounting track, have many more opportunities insofar as a business-related career goes than I ever had when I graduated in 1980. That's the real competition, is the opportunity and the variety of opportunity. Just think, the people in the audience, 20% of you will have some type of professional experience internationally. You just don't know it yet, but you will. What an exciting thing to look forward to, and you're only halfway through your education. So that's really what you have to look forward to as you are completing your community college curriculum.
Thank you for sharing that. I invite our our audience here to type in your questions as they come. So we'll go ahead and answer those as best we can. I guess my other question is in terms of, how community college students can best prepare themselves for transfer and for the recruiting process, because it's common knowledge now that recruiting is happening at a younger and younger, I guess, stage in a student's academic career. So I don't know about Cerritos or Pasadena City College, but I don't see KPMG have put up their recruiting booth right there, on campus in the middle of the quad. But they're going to encounter firms. They're going to encounter firms like Frank Rimmerin recruiting, on campuses. So how can you prepare yourself for that process? So we'll start with Charlie and then Michelle too.
It came up very, not sleight of hand, but a comment was made on communication. And most of the students I teach are working part-time, some full-time, and they're trying to get through their community college curriculum. And they're trying to make the grades to meet the threshold for transfer, successful transfer to any number one of four-year colleges that offer a program. But there's a lot you can do. And I use the phrase intentional socialization, learning to engage in a professional manner. Now, what does that mean? Because everyone talks about communication, but have you ever had anyone define what that actually means? You need to communicate more effectively. What does that mean? There are 6 or 7 things you can do. Learn to engage with your classmates. Set up a study group. Practice etiquette. Learn to welcome each other. It's great to see you today. How are you doing? And when you end your event or study group, wish them have a nice evening. Why? Because the decision maker on the employer side is not expecting it. They're not expecting cordiality. They're expecting it from an old person like me, but they're not necessarily expecting it from a young person. Learn to engage with your classmates intentionally. Join a club, but don't be a member. Be involved as a member. Be a chair. You don't have to be the president or vice president. Do things to make the club better. I'll give you an example, and I think I shared this with Michelle a year ago. We had 2 students who started a chapter of Alpha, the Association of Latino Professionals for America. I think we're one of 2 community colleges with a chapter. These 2 people are not Hispanic. They're both Asian. And I asked them, why would you do that? I mean, you both work 24 hours a week. They're both great students. You have things you want to do for yourselves. They said, Charlie, Mr. Osaki, our student body is 70% Latino, Hispanic. So far, a professor, a faculty member, no one has created a platform for these students to learn about business opportunities. And so they worked with the student government, the administration, and Alpha, and they started a chapter last year. Now, often we label the 4-year student, the 4-year college student, is the preferred student that we want to recruit from. And I headed up recruiting for Deloitte in the West for 12 years. So I was also an audit. So that I'm looking at from an employer standpoint. Okay, yeah, we want to be at UCLA, Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, UC Santa Barbara, my alma mater, USC. But you know what? Think about it. A person starting a club for someone else's benefit other than their own. Now, could you see yourself hiring 1 or 2 or both of those 2 students? Not too many people do that. Not too many people go through that thinking process for the betterment of hundreds of other students, and having to make that sacrifice of time and other effort. So intentional socialization. Go talk to your professors. Ask them about the profession or who they might know that can share information about a profession or what other options there are for a four-year college. You know, I would tell you when I first arrived, I would tell you that most of our students thought about Cal State Fullerton, Cal State Long Beach, and maybe Cal State Dominguez Hills. You know, USC is too expensive, UCLA is too hard to get into, UCSB is too far, and it's a party school. Well, UC Santa Barbara is the 6th ranked public university in the United States. USC has 80% of its students on financial aid. UCLA and the entire UC program is looking to engage in admitting more underserved students. And the fact is that you might find that the financial aid package enables you to attend some of the best schools than you would have thought. So the point is enabling them to plan and include in their options a Northridge, a Loyola, a USC, an NYU, a University of Virginia maybe, and that is considered in their planning process, and that the student be inquisitive with faculty, administration. If at CalCPA, if David Lowe can't answer the question, he'll refer you to me, Michelle, or Jolene, and we'll answer the question for you about how to get to the next level, okay? So intentional socialization. Encourage them to read what's news in the Wall Street Journal. It's 10 minutes to know what's going on in the country. And you know what? I wasn't asked to say this. Take the advantage of joining your first professional organization that has the same benefits that I have for free, the California Society of CPAs. And be intentional about, and you'll learn to speak professionally, behave professionally. You'll be comfortable in situations that were uncomfortable to you in the past. And that's what I'd say. Michelle, what would you say to that?
I like that intentional socialization. And I think the thing that I would add to that is to challenge yourself to be uncomfortable. All right. So when you do campus events like this is a perfect opportunity. And we're in a COVID environment, so it's a little bit different. But when we're live, you go shake somebody's hand, you go introduce yourself. Challenge yourself to be uncomfortable, whether it's in a situation like this, whether it's getting to know your professors better. I get a number of requests for letters of rec. And my response too often is that I can't write you a letter of rec because I have nothing to say about your character. I can write about your grade, but your grade is already written about in your transcript. And so develop that relationship, continue it. I had a student, actually I just got an email yesterday about a student who took me 2 or 3 years ago, told me he was going into his MBA program and just gave me an update. I've had students come back, PCC alum. Sean, I think, is a great PCC alum for us. And they come back and they share their experiences. They keep in touch with me, a quick line on LinkedIn. Probably about a year ago, a friend of mine was saying he was looking for somebody with some business background. And so I knew one of my old students was interested in the entertainment industry, had graduated with his master's in marketing, I believe. And I introduced them via LinkedIn, and he's now been working there for about a year. And my friend tells me he's actually the superstar of their group, of their very, very young company. The other thing that I would say is your grades matter. They matter right now. You don't want your grades to be a topic of discussion on your resume. You want the recruiter to look at and go, okay, good enough. Let's get to know who this person is. And I also tell my students, 5 years after you graduate, nobody's going to care about what your grades were. They're not going to ask what your grades are. And quite frankly, they probably don't care about where you went to school. Because after you've got 5 or so years into your career, they want to know what you've done there and what you've accomplished there. And they want to see that upward trajectory. But for right now, a big part of your job is to make sure that you get the grades for it to be a non-issue.
Legacy does not earn you a promotion.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I'd add on to what, you know, what Michelle was saying about dare to be uncomfortable. You know, offer your hand, greet somebody. Okay. Right now, we're not supposed to be shaking hands, but approach someone, introduce yourself, because you know what? The next time, I promise you, it won't be uncomfortable. So get involved. You know, I was just thinking as I see these questions, I had a mentor, and I think mentoring is the secret sauce to success. I'm a product of good mentoring, and my mentor told me, ask questions, ask why, but ask questions, because as I read the Q&A, the chat box, every one of you who's asking a question is adding an intellectual tool to your toolbox. Verbalize it, type it. Every time you ask a question, you have made yourself that much better with knowledge, and indirectly, you don't know it, through courage and confidence. And so keep doing those things. Be inquisitive, be intellectually inquisitive, because you'll find that you will advance yourself with every event and situation you're in when you do that.
We'll go ahead and stop there and move on to our next portion of the program. But I invite Michelle and Charlie, since you're both you know, have teaching experience at the community college level, to weigh in as you see fit. But I'd like to go ahead and move on to our next session, which is called Finding Community at Four-Year Institutions. And I'd like to welcome Sean Sung and Manuel Hernandez. We were supposed to have Chris Van on the program, but unfortunately he had a family emergency though, so it'll just be Sean and Manuel with us. So Manuel, I'll start with you. Maybe you can introduce yourself and let us know where you're currently attending and which community college you transferred from.
Thank you. Hello everyone, I am Manuel Hernandez and I currently attend California State University, Monterey Bay, and I transferred from Monterey Peninsula College about a year ago. So it's my second year as a transfer student, and I plan to graduate next fall. And my goal is to become a CPA, and I'm currently also CalCPA student ambassador at my school for this current school year, and I'm pretty excited. I'm enjoying it so far. Okay, so some of the challenges I faced transferring from a community college to a university it was more units I had to take. At community college, I took about 12 units, and right now in university, I'm taking about 15 or more. So more units equals more work, so be aware about that. Also, there's more writing assignments. I thought after I finished my English class in community college, I thought I was done, but no, it was just the beginning, and expect more writing at university. And the way I overcame these challenges was by planning ahead my schedule and manage my time well. I think time management is an important skill while attending college. And what influenced me to choose accounting as a major it started by me being interested in finance and enjoying math. So I saw that as a blend of two. So that's why I took accounting classes in community college. And I like how accounting felt like it was telling a story, which are financial statements. You can tell the performance of a company. And I like that. I liked it a lot. And I like how it feels like you're doing a puzzle and fixing the problem.
I'll go ahead and move on to Sean really quick. Sean, could you introduce yourself and let us know where you're currently attending and which community college you transferred from?
Yeah, of course. So hi everyone. My name is Sean. I'm currently studying accounting and information system, 2 majors at Cal State Northridge. I transferred out of PCC, I believe spring of 2019, and I took summer school after that. So I wasn't sure like what's my grad date in terms of that date. But currently I am a junior and senior at CSUN, because doing 2 majors, there is like a lot of, you don't know which one you really are. And I recently signed an offer with Ernst & Young in their consulting program. And I'm excited for that this coming summer. So yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And what's the biggest, like, I guess, difference you've seen going from PCC to CSUN? I mean, what was that first couple of weeks at CSUN like for you?
Wow, that's a great question. So I attended a lot of PCC classes to share my experience of what my first few weeks was. I thought that as an accounting student, I could just go to school, go to the gym, and go home and play video games for the whole day or whole week for the whole semester, basically. But I was hit with the hard truth of having to go out, like Professor Osaki said, making yourself uncomfortable, talking to people, searching for opportunities. And I was in a really fortunate situation where I had a lot of friends from PCC that was also accounting majors. And they were the one that really pushed me to join clubs, get involved, becoming directors, be part of the board. And I think that was I guess that was like the biggest difference. And like Manuel said, another thing was taking classes. There is so at a university level, they're not as kind as community colleges. They're not there to hold your hand. You know, professors aren't as available as you might think at the community college level. A lot of classes are extremely hard, not in terms of the professor purposely make them hard, but it is made to test your skill levels, to test your abilities, to test your thinking process. And a lot of students underestimate that from coming to community college, thinking that I could just memorize a balance sheet, a financial statement. And when they get to the university level, they get hit by the hard truth of, no, we need you to think. We need you to be able to assess all these different situations, apply your thinking in various situations. And yeah.
Manuel, do you care to chime in on that though, in terms of the difficulty in terms of taking 300, 400 level classes versus community college classes?
Yeah, it's a big difference. It's like it's lots of more work and it's more time consuming. So yeah, definitely you really have to plan your time. There's no room for procrastinating, I'd say.
And if I could ask, I got some questions in the chat about how they're like, which CSU or which college is the best for accounting, and like how did you end up choosing your respective schools to transfer to? Why did you, Manuel, choose Monterey Bay, and why did you, Sean, choose CSUN?
So the way I landed at CSUMB was that I wanted to go to Cal Poly's San Luis Obispo, but unfortunately I didn't get accepted, so I had to rethink all my options I had. And since CSUMB, that was close to home, I thought, well, if my dream school doesn't want me, I should just go to the school and maybe save some money while going to a 4-year. And that's what made me think about becoming a CPA, because the way I saw it, if my dream school didn't want me, because I think it turned out better that way, because I think if I would have gone to Cal Poly's San Luis Obispo, I would have been in my comfort zone. I would have thought that I made it here. I don't have to do anything to be more qualified for a job after university. And now by going to CSUMB, I feel like if I want to reach the maximum possibility of opportunities in accounting, I have to become a CPA. So I think that's what pushed me to want to become a CPA, and that's why I chose CSUMB.
So for my end, it's probably a little bit more. So basically, when I graduated PCC, I had some options ranging between Long Beach and CSUN and LA. The reason why I chose CSUN was because when I went to a visit at CSUN, basically a tour, I saw that the accounting program had their own dedicated career center, meaning that it's solely for accounting students, and EY funds it. On top of that, there is plentiful of clubs that you could join as a business major. You're not restricted of certain clubs that, if you're marketing, you have to do this. If you're, logistics, you have to do that. They're very welcoming. And on top of that, I think a biggest misconception was, oh, I have to go to a good school to be recruited for the best jobs in the future. My counter argument is always that, at CSUN, although some firms do not recruit for some of the specific job opportunities as school like USC or UCLA. Again, going back to what Professor Osaki said, it's what you put out. It's you putting yourself in a uncomfortable situation of reaching out, finding people to talk to that are willing to give you the opportunity. From my experience, for CSUN, usually the job opportunity offered are tax and audit, which for a majority of students are, that's my dream job. But for me, I wanted to go into more of a tech side of accounting. So to do that, I had to reach out to a lot of different professionals in the tech industry and in the tech field. And yeah, you have to just kind of, and eventually down the line, they'll get back to you and then interview you and then offer you the job, assuming that you nail your interviews and such. But yeah.
Great. I want to loop Charlie and Michelle into this. So in your experience, what separates, I guess, a successful accounting student in your classes versus someone who's maybe not so successful in studying accounting?
As an instructor, I can tell the difference between those who are just trying to get the A versus those who are actually trying to understand and learn the material. And I think probably what Sean and Manuel have figured out is that you've got to master the material in order to continue succeeding, because that intermediate accounting is your weeder class, right? So you've really got to, the curiosity, right? The asking of questions and understanding the why rather than just the how. So I think that's the difference.
Okay, so thank you for sharing that, though. I kind of wanted to ask Sean and Manuel, did you start your community college programs knowing that you're going to major in accounting, or how did you come to that decision and to say, yes, accounting is for me, and yes, I want to become a CPA? How did that progression take place? So I'll start with Sean, and then we can go to Manuel.
Okay. So when I first started PCC, I wanted to be an engineer / a math major. And after taking a few math classes, I realized that this probably wasn't the route for me. And I didn't really see an opportunity, not in the engineering field, but more so the math field of what can I do with this degree? And that was at the point when I decided to take an accounting class. And I remember going to the accounting class very scared, like, oh my God, this is going to be extremely hard. And luckily, I had a great professor that taught me, the why instead of the how, like Professor Lee said. And that really made me curious, like more curious about how, in our everyday life, every single thing you buy, there's an accounting transaction behind it. And everything that happens, if it's a transaction, there's accounting behind it. And that's really why I chose accounting. And on top of that, I believe Patrick mentioned that the limitless opportunities of being an accountant is that you don't have to just sit there and do tax all day. You don't have to be, an auditor for the rest of your life. There's different opportunities. You can be part of the FBI if you wanted to, or part of the CIA if you wanted to help those organizations to find fraud. It just, accounting exists every day in your life. You just don't see it. And that's why. Yeah.
And for you, Manuel?
So yeah, so when I first started community college, my first idea wasn't accounting. I first wanted to become an orthodontist, but then I found out how much science it has to do, and I dislike science, so I just said no. And then I started just doing business administration just to get an idea of what it was. And once I took my first accounting class, I enjoyed it a lot. I enjoyed doing the balance statements and all the financial statements in class. And we did a project report about, we had to pick one company and kind of study their financials and all their ratios and analyze what they meant. and I enjoyed it a lot, and that's what made me keep on focusing on accounting, and that's why I picked accounting as my major.
Great. Thank you for that. And what advice would you have for the community college students right now that are attending this program? They're, maybe their first year or halfway through their second year, getting ready to transfer. What advice would you have for them as they're getting ready to transfer? Any words of wisdom?
I would advise them to plan a meeting with any accounting teachers they have and try to talk about the opportunities they have in their area. I think that's very important. I think it's very important to know what opportunities they have in their area, to know if they need to possibly leave the area after graduation, or if not, if they have to stay, if they can stay, it's fine. But I would definitely talk to the professors to know all the opportunities they have in their area. And I would also note what they like about accounting and what they don't like. Because let's say for example, I really enjoy cost accounting. So I plan on working for a public firm after graduation, but if not, I would like to work at a private firm that specifies with an occupation with cost accounting. So I will advise them to know what they like and what they don't like about accounting. And I would advise them to learn how to network. The earlier, the better. I'd say networking is a very important skill in accounting. A lot of people think that accountants are very introverts, but I'd say no, it's a very social occupation. It's a lot of interacting with people. So I'd say networking is a very important skill to learn as soon as possible.
Just to kind of add on top of that is that typically students I see transferring to CSUN is either you're an OA student and you don't know how to talk to people, or you can talk to a lot of people, but you don't have good grades. So just to let you guys know that you need both. Like I said, like Manuel said, accounting is not just sitting at your desk all day to, doing taxes, or, just doing paperwork all day and staring at your computer. It's a very socialized career, meaning that I would say 99% of the time when you're working on a team, and you need to learn how to talk to your teammates, right? And that's very important. And on top of that, another thing I wanted to add is make a LinkedIn, talk to your professors. I think another Professor Yanaga from PCC, one of the best suggestion that he gave me was talk to your alumni, to ask them what's their experience. And like Manuel said, talk to your professors. They're your best resources, I would say, from a community college, because they've been through, all the recruiting. They've been part of the firm for all we know, right? So they have a lot of experience. They have a lot of knowledge that they're willing to share, and they're only going to share those experience if you ask them. They're not going to tell you in class that, yeah, I worked at wherever. This is what you need to do. So just know that soft skill is very important, and I join clubs. Like, that's one thing I highly suggest everyone to do that are transferring. Join clubs not only broadens your network, it also helps you meet professionals and get engaged with all the different events. I'm sure all the clubs at big schools help you work on your resume. They help you do prep interviews, and all those are great resources for you to, prepare for your professional career. Yeah.
Sean, what was your recruiting experience like? I guess your first Meet the Firms, because when you transferred in fall of 19 to CSUN, so I'm sure you got hit with like Meet the Firms like your first couple of weeks. What was that experience like? Because I assume you didn't have any experience with Meet the Firms prior to coming to CSUN.
Oh man, yeah. So kind of go backwards a little bit. I was like that student that I just want to go to school and come home and play video games. So I wasn't really socialized, quote unquote. My first Meet the Firms was very scary because I know nobody, right? Although I joined clubs, I know no one. I knew a few recruiters, but one of the biggest suggestion I would give you guys is when you guys go to Meet the Firms or any type of career fair, don't talk to the recruiter, talk to the people, that are going to interview you down the line, like the managers or the seniors, because those are going to be the people that you work with. Another thing was talk to a lot of your student peers that also gone through the same process. If it wasn't for all my friends I met in clubs that had already gone through the recruiting process, because they were kind of the one that's kind of hurting the crowd and meet the firms. They'd be like, "Hey, Sean, come talk to whoever from which firm, or like, are you interested in whichever firm?" They'll come introduce you to the professional in there. And yeah, it was scary. It was very scary, but you kind of just have to buckle down and just go through it. And I would tell you that the first one is usually a disaster. I would 100% like promise you that. The first one will be, you'll go and talk to 3 people and then you'll leave like, oh my God, I screw up. But trust me, if you continue to put in the work and network outside of school, going to events, the second one will be the best experience you ever have. And you'll talk to so many more people that, you'll meet so many different people and then make even more networks from the first one.
And Manuel, did you have any, I don't know if you have any experience with meet the firms or job interviews or mock interviews. I don't know if you can care to share about some of those experiences.
I've only been to one. It was last fall, and it was very eye-opening to see how many firms there were in my area in Monterey. I had no idea how many, because Monterey is considered like a small city to county. So to see how many firms there were, it was very eye-opening. I'm very glad I went to all the career fairs and meet the firm events that they provided last year. And I would encourage any community college student to, I'm sure there might be some that do it in community college. I know there was at mine, MPC. So I would definitely advise any student to go to their meet their firms or to meet their graduate school fairs also. I'm sure go to any of those events, because like I said, networking is very key in accounting.
Great. And I'll throw it back to our accounting instructors here. Just one last question in terms of just what advice would you give for students who are trying to choose between various universities for transfer? How do you make that decision as to, well, should I go to Fullerton, or should I go to Long Beach State, or should I go to USC, or should I go to UCSB, or out of state? I don't know. But what advice have you given students in terms of how they go about choosing which school to transfer to?
Well, I talk to students a lot of times about transferring. I tell them it's complex. You have to look at the economics. I think fit's important. Every campus has a different culture. It's not just one college culture. Campuses have different cultures between Loyola, USC, Santa Barbara, UCLA, San Diego State. And it's important to visit them. If you can make the time, and people have different types of constraints, whether they're working, there's finances, etc. But you want to investigate those schools, and you have resources, and it may go well beyond faculty and counselors. It might be talking to alumni, talking to other, I don't have all the answers, but I know people who've gone to a variety of schools that they can talk to and get some current information, or talk to administrators at various schools and take a tour or make an informal tour for yourself. But I really am a big believer in, when you plan, look at a variety of schools. If you want to know, you can talk to not just faculty, you can talk to firm representatives. If you don't know any firm representatives, go to U.S. World News and Reports and look at the top accounting programs and look at their websites, and include in your planning different schools that you might want to attend, because you never know, combined with visiting. Maybe you met a faculty member in a tour that you liked, or the finances, the scholarship they offered, the financial aid made it affordable for you to attend that school, that private school, as easily as going to a public school. So, but I don't think you should settle. You might have to compromise, but I don't think you should settle. You need information to make a good choice.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for sharing, Manuel and Sean, about your experience. So we appreciate it. And we'll go ahead and move on to our final panel, which is our CPA panel. Nancy and Patrick have introduced themselves already, but I'll go ahead and bring in Michael Gallagher, who's at Sensiba San Filippo, SSF. So I'll have him go ahead and introduce himself, and then after that, we'll have Douglas introduce himself as well. So Michael, go ahead and take it away and tell us a little bit about your journey to becoming a CPA.
Thank you, David. Okay. I've been furiously typing away in the chat, so finally I get my chance to talk. I am definitely a example of somebody who's not an introvert. So I know somebody, I think, made a comment about accountants being just introverts locked away in their cube, and it definitely is not that way. I originally am from the Portland, Oregon area, and I went to Washington State University, and community college has played a huge role in my education. I started going to community college when I was in high school, and I didn't really have a direction that I wanted to go. And if anything, I wish I would have continued in community college and got my associate's degree. When I went to Washington State, I got my bachelor's with a concentration in marketing, with no plans after that. So I kind of dropped everything and moved to Hawaii with some of my friends from college. And it wasn't until there that I reassessed my life after a few years of just kind of lounging on the beach, to determine that I wanted to be an accountant. And I was actually inspired by my sister, who went back to school at a community college to do one of the accounting programs that I'm not sure the mix of people here, if you are all just going straight from high school into community college, or I know a couple people in the chat said that they're returning to school. So some community colleges have programs that are like 1 year, 1.5 year programs that, if you have already graduated with another degree, will get you to that point where you have enough credits to sit for the CPA exam. It's a very affordable way to kind of change career paths. And my older sister had done that. And since I was already a business major with marketing, I thought that maybe that was a good route to go to get my upper division accounting classes, those 24 credits. So accounting is measurable. It was easy to follow. So I was able to look at what I needed to sit for the CPA exams. I could easily plan out my next steps. I knew my trajectory, which I need that kind of guidance to rein me in. So able to set those goals and then work towards achieving those was critical for me. So I enrolled in school in Hawaii, took my upper division accounting courses, started sitting for my CPA exams. And as people who have returned or doing career change, yes, you feel a little bit behind the ball as somebody who went straight from high school into a 4-year school. So it is joining the clubs, talking to the professors, getting out there and networking. And a lot of it was kind of learning on the fly. I remember I went to a networking dinner with a bunch of firms in Hawaii, and some of the other students at some of the other, from the other colleges sitting at my tables, already had job offers. And I was like, wait, I'm supposed to be applying now? So kind of learning that process and doing things to build my resume. I didn't have the greatest GPA in my marketing classes, but was killing it in my accounting classes. So I was sure to highlight that on my my resume. And then when it came time to applying for schools, I had to do a little bit more. I went out and solicited the schools. I looked up what kind of industry I wanted to work in. I knew I wanted to be an auditor. So really following through with that. I knew I wanted to move away from Hawaii and along the West Coast. So I found some place, a couple places in Oregon, Southern California, and then ultimately here in the Bay Area with Sensiba San Filippo. Found a firm that I really enjoyed interviewing with and working with. And so I moved here sight unseen just to find out that California has a bunch of ethics education requirements. So I enrolled and attended Foothill College to get a couple other accounting classes or ethics accounting classes that I needed for my CPA. And that is where I'm at now.
Great. Thank you so much, Michael, for sharing. And Douglas?
Hey, I'm Doug Radke. I'm right now a sole proprietor CPA. Do a little bit of tax and a little bit of audit. Background is, at least professionally, I started in a franchise tax board, worked in some big public accounting firms, and eventually, found myself into going on my own and being a sole proprietor CPA. Education-wise, I actually started at San Jose State right out of high school, and was originally going to go into MIS, wanted to do some kind of IT roles. Then that was around the time the dot-com crash happened, and so I wasn't really applying myself in school at the time, and those kind of the dot-com crash kind of made me rethink things about stability and maybe reconsider some things, I wanted in my career. My mother was an accountant herself. She sat for the CPA exam, didn't actually pass herself, but was a controller at a couple companies. So I kind of had that always in the background growing up. So I went back to community college, went to school called Skyline College up in San Bruno. It's kind of where I grew up. Went there, got a AA degree in accounting, and transferred down south to the University of California, Riverside. Wanted to kind of get away a bit, and experience another part of California. I had a great experience there. Unfortunately, graduated in 2009, kind of in the peak of the recession. So some folks on the panel might remember how bad it was in 2009. So I actually didn't get a public accounting offer right out of college, but I did manage to get a role with the Franchise Tax Board doing multi-state tax audit. And eventually I was able to parlay that into getting into a national firm, Rothstein Cass. They got acquired by KPMG, and that kind of what springboarded my career. So I think my career has been anything but a straight line. And I think, the whole plight of the community college student and non-traditional student is something that's kind of resonates with me. So I felt like, going through school, I was kind of like a non-traditional candidate. Also had the experience of the accounting ethics requirement coming in and having to go back to school, Foothill also online. So community college has been amazing. It's always been there for me. So I feel for the community college students. And so, all of you guys on this Zoom right now are doing a great thing, doing research into what you want to be doing down the road. Really what made me want to study and pursue accounting, I think I had the first course maybe I took in San Jose State was Financial Accounting 1. And I think I didn't have like a very good experience with that one. The whole debits and credits thing didn't really click. But then I went back to community college and actually sat with one professor I had for managerial accounting. And that's when things, started to really click. What I loved about the community college experience was, having a little more of the professor's time, a little smaller classroom. It really, I felt, helped set me up for success better than like a huge lecture hall of like 100 people, so community college has been great. So that's a little bit of a background about me and my education. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing. And Jolene has been kind enough to stick around with us here, so I'll invite her to be part of this discussion as well amongst all these CPAs here. So I guess in terms of there's a lot of questions around the role of technology and how that's playing a part of, and how that's changing the CPA profession and how you do your work. So, and I would imagine that students now joining us on this event, their CPA career path and what they're doing is going to look very different than about 5-10 years from now. And so I'm just wondering, how can students best prepare for this technological onslaught that is coming, and how that's so I just kind of wanted to throw it out there as kind of a primer for the impact of technology and how students can prepare for that, though. So I'll kind of throw that out there to all our CPAs, and if anybody wants to chime in, please do.
I mean, well, for technology, it's touching everything that we do now. I have to imagine most of the people on this call probably know more about technology than I do, because frankly, what they're teaching in the schools and what people are using on a daily basis is much more than I was ever taught when I was in college. So I'm happy to hear that a lot of those classes and programs, certificate programs, all exist now. They didn't exist then. So, I would suggest start thinking about where you think you might want to go in terms of a specialty. I don't think you have to have it all figured out. But if you do, now's the time to get some of that core knowledge before you leave college, before you get your degree, because now's the time to have that opportunity, whether it's an elective class or, some specialty classes. There's not a lot of room for that with an accounting degree because of the number of units, but to the extent that you have that capability, learn as much as you can before you even get into the workforce. That would be my recommendation.
Yes, I can chime in a bit. I actually had a recent conversation with an acquaintance of mine who's up there in the PwC, and I think he said the couple skill sets that he sees as being the most valuable are in the areas of data analytics and robotic process automation. So he said, just to throw out some software out there, learn Alteryx, if you get exposure to a product called UiPath. Both of those tools, at least I can speak with the big four, are being used, and they will be used more extensively. There's even some of this robotic process automation kind of happening already in the realm of, some firms are using it to calculate book to tax differences automatically, or OCR text recognition of tax documents to do tax prep to help automate more steps of that process. And so being aware of this kind of stuff. Oh, and also like revenue testing and audit is huge. Going to be huge with robotic process automation. But I guess getting familiar with the concepts, getting familiar with the tools, getting comfortable with working with big data. This word's often thrown around, big data, data analytics, like what is it really? It's being comfortable with, large data sets, the software to manipulate it, and, being able to kind of bring order to the chaos in the unarranged kind of data sets. That's going to be a future huge skill, I think, in the world of audit and tax, industry as well. If you're going to be an industry accountant, I've seen so many, companies using proprietary integrations, in their ERP and their accounting systems. A lot of accountants are being pushed to do more FP&A, financial planning and analysis tasks on the finance side, and those typically use large data sets to draw conclusions. So, yep, I'd say that is probably going to be some of the more cutting edge stuff. It's getting out of all the kind of compliance work, check the box, tick and tie, to can you take this enormous data set and can you make a conclusion from it? Can you use these tools? Can you use technology to be a better auditor or better accountant? And those who master those skills will be at the forefront of the career, for the next 20, 30 years. And those who don't learn it, you're going to be a step behind. So, while you're a student, get exposed to that arena as much as you can is my recommendation.
So shameless plug for some of our CalCPA events I put in the chat. So we do have a robotic process automation event. It's kind of a how RPA will transform the accounting industry. So I put that in the chat though, so please go ahead and register. That's a free event for students though, so please join us. And then we also have a intro to blockchain event as well. So that you're more than welcome to attend that event and kind of get an inside look as to how these technologies are applied in the accounting industry. So another question I have, and again, I also invite our students to chime in though, but in terms of what is expected of new hires right now, I would imagine that new hires are and especially first year CPAs, they're being asked to do more and more complex work versus maybe a first year associate, 15, 20 years ago though. Can anybody here kind of talk about that though? What are the expectations of first year staff coming into a CPA firm? And you can talk about your specific, I guess, departments or areas of practice. So what is expected of a tax associate or someone in consulting or someone who's, maybe like Jolene, maybe doing some forensic audit work or forensic accounting work. So you can speak to your specific areas of practice.
I think if I can go, considering I spent all morning teaching our new hires in our audit department all about how to audit AR. I think one thing that we're really leaning on some of our new hires, and this kind of ties back into our previous discussion question, is we really encourage them to find solutions or because they have fresh set of eyes. They're just coming into this. Your college education is a foundation for the skyscraper that's going to be your career. So if you think about that, you just set the groundwork in. You're not expected to know everything, but you do have a fresh set of eyes. As curriculums move more towards integrating technologies and finding solutions, we've hired I think a few data analytics that Douglas mentioned into our firm to help automate processes, or so leaning on some of those and maybe even looking for students that's a good way, especially if you're changing careers, to set yourself apart from the pack. If you don't have that really strong other degree, but you're doing well in your accounting degree and you want to kind of stand out, and you're just getting into the accounting profession, that is a good way to have some of that technology, whether it's some computer programming like Python or something on your resume, or some data analytics. So we're really hoping to tap into that and see the accounting profession move that way. And then I know I work a lot in venture capital, where the audits are really small. They're a lot faster. So automating processes where we can get those out faster and turn them over so they can get, because their tax deadline for partnerships has been moved up to March 15th. So that really shortens our window for getting the audit done so tax can start. So getting them out in a timely manner is critical. So automating a lot of these processes will help us very much going into the future. And by the end of the first busy season, so 9 months into their career, our new hires are expected to start in charging some of these smaller audits.
Anybody else want to chime in on expectations of first year staff?
I guess I'll chime in again. I think more and more, especially like in the larger firms, people who are first years are expected more and more to, exhibit project management skills, management skills over other personnel. I actually have a distant buddy who just started like at the Big Four, and he's already managing some of these global delivery personnel, assigning out different sections of his engagement, and also working on all of this push for automation. I think, all firms are pushing to automate what they can, the routine work, gain efficiencies. There's been a whole bunch of changes kind of pushing that. But I think first years, especially in the larger firms, are going to be expected to have a lot more of those soft skills, I think, that you expect to have later on, kind of early in their career. They're going to have a little bit more of technical demands, and you're going to have to step in charge. And I think, develop people, manage people like a lot earlier in your career than I think even like 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago when I started. So, it's exciting. I think it's exciting for the profession, but get ready for the challenge, I'd say.
I'm gonna jump in here. I feel like we're scaring everybody here as far as expectations. I can just say, we have the resources as a CPA firm to give you the skills and to teach you. So do what you've always done: adapt, learn. We know you've got the horsepower. You've been through, great schools. You're studying for your exam, and you'll pass the exam. So really come in with a positive attitude, have confidence in yourself, and we will teach you the rest. Have that positive attitude with your with any team members. Do anything that's really asked of you, and we will teach you the rest. I think I'll leave it at that, because I think we all had, even 20 years ago when I started at my firm, we all had that fear. We showed up on the first day. Oh, geez, am I going to meet your expectations? Is the bar set up here and I'm down here? Will I be able to keep up with my peers? And the answer is yes, you will. You will be able to keep up with them. Just do what you've always done. Have confidence in yourself. As technology evolves, I can certainly tell you that we in the profession are on top of it, and we have a plan, and we will teach you how to implement that new technology.
I have to agree with Patrick. From an expectation standpoint, I have to say it's been a long time since I've worked with a first year. And the reason I say that is, our firm definitely hires first years all the time, but I work in forensic accounting and I'm in Sacramento. It's not a large metropolitan area. So the types of cases that we work on, and from a recruiting standpoint, we don't recruit the same way that I think a lot of the larger firms do in larger metropolitan areas in forensic accounting. You can probably go into forensic accounting right out of college and start on some pretty big jobs. The stuff that I do tends to require a little bit more experience. That said, I was involved in recruiting for a very long time, and I wish I knew then what I know now. And my biggest recommendation is just have confidence in yourself. I promise you, the firms, they will all have whatever that you're going to need to get where you need to go, to teach you the skills that you need to be taught. It's the confidence and the eagerness and, it's all of those types of things that really you got to have those things. You can't teach somebody confidence. Don't be afraid to try new things. Don't be afraid to come up with an answer, even if it's wrong. I'd rather have somebody tell me, and here's a solution I thought of. I think this is a great idea. It may not be what we go with. It may not be the right answer, but it absolutely shows initiative. So to me, it's all about attitude. It's all about eagerness. And if you can show that, you'll go a long way. The rest of it will come.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I know we're kind of running up on our time together here, and I just kind of wanted to ask one last question of all of our panelists. And so we'll go ahead and start with Nancy Corrigan here. What makes a great CPA, in your opinion? Given your experience in the profession and what you all have seen, what separates the truly great CPAs from the ones that are, just average, I guess?
Well, David, some of that has already kind of been said, but I'll just reiterate and add to it. It's the people part of it. Being a CPA and in all the different aspects and opportunities, it's a service business. It's a service opportunity. And if you like to interact with people and you have writing skills, that sort of thing, their presentation skills, you like to help people solve their problems, analytical, take the initiative to do things, I think that is what makes a great CPA. It's very, very rewarding in that sense, and that can make you a very happy person if that's what you're looking for. It really is. We're not bean counters. We're not number crunchers. We definitely are, people persons and wanting to help people solve issues, take them on as their own and solve them. And I think that can make you a great CPA. Thank you.
Great. How about Jolene?
I have to say, over the years, the one thing that I feel like has been underrated in the colleges and that they don't teach well enough to accountants is writing skills and communication skills. I think they're certainly getting better at it, and it's become much more of a focus. I'm on a panel advisory board with American River College, and I recall we talked about this very thing, and I think there needs to be a little bit more focus on that because accountants are associated with numbers, and there's a lot of analytical skills that come along with that as well related to numbers. But if you can't communicate your conclusions, or you can't communicate verbally with the client, that's a real hindrance. And so to me, that's something that if you have the opportunity to, whether it's take another class, join Toastmasters, there's a lot of opportunities to volunteer for presentations just to get your feet wet and get comfortable with talking to people face to face, giving presentations, learning how to communicate with the client, really learning how to listen as well. So there's a lot of elements to that. And to me, that's probably the one skill that I think is underrated and should really be focused on.
Great, thank you. And Patrick, any thoughts?
Yeah, I'd say a good CPA is one that takes pride in their work. Does, just like anything else, take pride in what you do it to the best of your ability. I love this profession and that we're self-regulating. We have oversight over ourselves, and I love having that discussion with fellow CPAs. And I can tell you that they can, when we share our work product, and even if we have differing opinions on what the code means, we can have a professional dialogue and really feed off of one another. So that's my short answer to that, David.
And Doug.
I'd say, early in my career, I thought it was just all about, technical skills and developing that. But really what I've realized is more like the soft skills, being able to work with people. I think having a great sense of humor helps too. You're going to be working usually, whether it's public or industry, on a team, and, being able to I found being able to manage teams, project manage, navigate different personalities, and bring people together. That's really going to make you like a great CPA, because no matter what, whether you're working with clients, your team members, other CPAs, those people skills really help. So that's what I think helps make a great CPA.
And last but not least, Michael.
Well, clearly, becoming a member and participating in CalCPA will make you a great CPA. Shameless plug. But especially the Peninsula Silicon Valley chapter that Doug and I are board members of. Meeting, to kind of reiterate some of them, meeting client commitments, and that means actively listening to what your clients need, being proactive. We are a service organization. We serve our clients, we serve the public, so working with high integrity. And me personally, I feel like goal setting. So you're always working hard to achieve something, and it begins right now in class. I need to get this many credits. Then I need to start studying for the CPA exam. Then I need to get interviews. I need to do networking through CalCPA. I need to, do all of these different things, and it never stops, because we can always try to work to improve all the way up to partner level that I'm sure Patrick can attest to. Always trying to find new ways to help service our customers, our clients, and becoming a better accountant with measurable, achievable goals.
Great, thank you so much. I'd like to thank every panelist here that joined us tonight. I appreciate you coming on at around dinner time. I don't know, but I'm gonna probably grab a burger on my way home. but thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, sharing your experience with our students here. Audience, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know there's a lot of other things we could be doing, but thank you for making the investment in yourself and in your future career as a CPA. We will be putting this recording on our YouTube channel, so we're looking to beef that up, so you'll see this on YouTube. And if you have any questions about our student programming, though, I'm going to go ahead and type my email address into the chat here, and feel free to email me if you want copies of the slide. Go ahead and email me. I'll go ahead and shoot that off to you. So with that, have a great night. Thank you so much for joining us, and look forward to seeing you at the next CalCPA event. Take care then. Good night.